this mic working? Can we music down for us? Thank you. All right. Okay, can everybody hear me clearly in this room? Can you hear me clearly? All good. All right. So it is now time for the senior debate finals. Please take your seats. Seniors, government and opposition. Team 1 and Team 7, please take your seats. All right, okay, take your seats, everyone. Okay, so I'll just go through quickly the rules, the tech, everything that's going on, the run through, okay? So please listen carefully. In front of you, there's one microphone on the table. That one is only for POIs, okay? And please POI in the microphone, otherwise the speaker cannot hear you. Understand? Now, when it's your turn to speak, please make your way onto the podium and then grab the mic, set everything ready, okay? When you start to speak, that is when we'll start the time, okay? So I want everyone, each speaker, to please come up. Okay, so we'll try with the government first. All three of you stand up. We'll do this run through. Okay, come and speak. Say hello to the microphone at the podium. Okay?
Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hi.
All right, yes. So please make sure everyone have your microphones in front of you. Otherwise, if it's away, we cannot hear you. Okay? All right. Opposition, please stand up. Come and speak behind the podium.
Hello.
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 Okay, please make sure, yes, if you are bringing your tablets, your scripts, your computer, set it down, okay, on the podium right here. Or if you want to grab it, you can also do that. That is up to you. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? So I'm gonna give you a few more minutes, okay, to set things down, organize things, get things ready. We'll start the debate at 4 p.m. sharp. Any questions? Nope. All right. So I would like to call for all of the judges for the senior debate finals to please make your way to the judging panel. The judges for the senior final round is myself, Mr. Piam, Ms. Pear, Ms. B, Mr. Aaron, and Mr. Chad. All right, for the first, so government proposition, who is the first speaker? Primus, who is the second speaker? Miu. And who is the third speaker? Gyoza. And who is the reply? Primus. For the opposition, who is the first speaker? Your name is Wish. Okay, and the second speaker, Timmy. Third speaker, Po. And who is the reply? Wish. Okay, so now Mr. Aaron will explain all of the time cues that will be happening in this debate.
Hi. So you have 5 minutes to speak for your round. I will clap 2 times at 5 minutes to indicate that you have 1 more minute, 30 more seconds left. I will clap 3 times at 5:20 to indicate that you have 10 seconds left. Additionally, I will clap at 1 and 4 minutes once to indicate when you can give POIs. Please only give POIs between 1 and 4 minutes, and make sure to keep all your POIs below 20 seconds, or else we'll have to interrupt you. Good luck, and I hope you guys have a great debate.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Aaron. And I would like to welcome everyone to the final seniors debate of the World's Changers Cup 2025. Can we have a big round of applause for both teams? My name is Mr. P. I'm here with Ms. Pear, Ms. B, Mr. Aaron, and Mr. Chad. We will be your judges for this round. The motion for this round is this House believes that humanity's greatest achievement will be to rise together, not to rise apart. On side government, we have Team 1. And on side opposition, we have Team 7. Without further ado, I would like to welcome the first speaker of the government, the Prime Minister, to begin the debate. Hear, hear.
Good afternoon, fellow debaters, respected audience, and adjudicators. I, Primus, will be the first speaker fully supporting with the motion that this House believes that humanity's greatest achievement would be to rise together, not to rise apart. So without further ado, let's get into my definition of humanity's greatest achievement, which refers to succeeding at something to the highest degree in history, beneficial to a vast majority of humanity. This ensures basic survival, and all the benefits are equally distributed towards all of humanity. For example, if an achievement, no matter how great, cannot benefit a vast majority of humanity, then that wouldn't count as humanity's greatest achievement. Rising together implies a state of international collaboration between 2 or more nations. This includes, but not limited to, sharing resources, skill sets, and determination, all to achieve one unified goal, of which in this motion is humanity's greatest achievement. As a byproduct of this, every individual in this combined effort gets equal opportunity to express their ideas and expertise. Rising apart, conversely, implies a fragmented effort or a sufficient level of national or individual autonomy, all in the same goal of reaching humanity's greatest goal. This is often driven by factors involving but not limited to competition, nationalism, or national pride. So sticking with our term, a combined effort by nations, but competition between individuals within those nations still fall in our definition of rising apart, which we will be referring to our points later on. Our burden of proof is that we win if we can prove that unified action will lead to a far greater and potentially the greatest benefit of humanity, while the opposition must prove that rising apart is either more beneficial, more realistic, and that we as the proposition believe not only in all the benefits of combined action, but also that it surpasses any achievement from individual or fragmented progress. So let's get into my points. My first point is the fact that addressing global challenges requires a combined action. So to truly address this motion, we have to address the fact that from our pathway as humanity to achieve our greatest achievement, by definition, right? So in every scenario, there poses at least one, if not more challenges and issues standing in between. And these challenges are present on a macro scale, meaning that it is an international issue, often affecting a multitude of nations and the general public. For example, climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has consistently reported that stronger international cooperation is the key to tackle climate change. As even though it starts with one small action by individuals like us, it would still prove ineffectual if it isn't for collective action. And this collective action of individuals on an international scale directly falls into a category of combined action and rising together by definition, yes.
Even though climate change is a global issue, does it really need everyone to solve it together? Can't we solve it separately, but we are still solving the same goal?
Yes, as defined in our definition, climate change is a combined effort of which individuals like us who contribute to solving climate change in our everyday actions, but wouldn't still be possible without combined effort, which falls into our definition. So we would like to see a definitional challenge from your side. Similarly, pandemics like the COVID-19 have shown that a disease from one country can rapidly spread globally, necessitating coordinated international responses in vaccine development, distribution, and public health measures. The World Health Organization plays a crucial role in facilitating such global health initiatives, and guess what? Has over 194 member states. These examples in the status quo all prove the mechanism of this point about how these global issues can only be truly and effectively solved by combined effort and global collaboration, which falls into our definition of rising together. My second subpoint is that while innovation might happen alone, nothing truly great can be achieved without combining these innovations. For example, Apple could not have manufactured their first generation of iPhones without using Samsung chips, and these Samsung chips could not have been made without tens of different companies that manufacture parts of these Samsung chips. And this creates a cycle where one great innovation, by any definition, cannot be made without the combination of individual expertise in one or more fields, proving how important combined effort is in pushing innovation and the drive towards humanity's greatest achievement in the status quo. This also directly proves the burden of proof. This makes it so that what is perceived as individual progress and competition that is pushing innovation by the opposition is actually impossible to execute as proven before. You can have all the progress you like, but to actually achieve humanity's greatest achievement, you gotta have humanity in it. And how can humanity be most easily achieved? Combined effort and rising together. So my last point is how fragmented effort brings about short-term progress as opposed to longer-term effects and collective effort from rising together, which contributes more towards humanity's greatest achievement. We can look at the space race, which was a race between the US and USSR. And while this competition brings about new innovations and discoveries in space, if we look at the International Space Station, or the ISS, which includes 15 countries, including Japan, Canada, the European Space Agency, which consists around 10 members, and of course the US and the USSR, as a testament towards the permanence of work produced while rising together, the space race, while contributing towards space research and advancement, actually provided less than what the space station has accumulated and still continues to provide today. And guess what? The competitors in the space race, the US and the USSR, were also major contributors towards the development, the function of the ISS, directly proving that with the same ingredients, rising together can produce better, long-lasting results than rising apart. So in conclusion, the proposition has proven our 3 main points, and which my second speaker will further elaborate. Thank you.
I would like to thank the first speaker of the side government for their fine speech. And now, 1 minute interval. And now I would like to welcome the first speaker of the side opposition, the leader of the opposition, to present their case. Here.
Pressure doesn't forge diamonds by holding hands. Good afternoon, honorable judges, esteemed opponents, our fellow audience, and my teammates. I am Wish from Brighton College, Bangkok, and I proudly stand as the leader of opposition to reject the motion that humanity's greatest achievement is to work together. On its face, the motion sounds noble, humanity uniting, coordinating, rising in perfect harmony. But history teaches us something harsher. History rewards the daring, the reckless, the ones willing to risk everything while the rest cling to comfort. Humanity's greatest feats are not born in harmony. They're born in the midst of chaos, defiance, and cold-blooded ambition. Firstly, we want to redefine and break down the terms in the motion while presenting our stance. Greatest achievement is the single most monumental transformative feat humanity has ever accomplished. Together means cooperation globally, where most, if not all, actively supports and helps in success, working in tandem and freely exchanging ideas and data. Apart, a world where cooperation is not total. There are factions and coalitions who can disagree and argue. We also like to clarify that the modern world is an example of apart, as the world is currently not globally cooperating on every single topic. Rising together is not just collaboration, it is total, enforced unity across all human entities. Every person, every corporation, every nation must march perfectly in step. History proves that trying to make everyone rise in flawless synchronization is not noble. It is catastrophic. For example, communism and Mao's great leap forward led to bureaucracy, stagnation, famine, and absolute mediocrity. This is not progress. It is a gilded cage that crushes brilliance. Next, I'd like to move on to my rebuttals and how it has disproved the Prime Minister's claims. The Prime Minister mentioned that working together would improve the quality and scale for both parties, in this case of the ISS and the space race. However, this example should not be considered to the space race using way earlier technology. The ISS is truly not a worldwide effort also, but rather influential countries using their power to help create a space station. Working together eliminates competition also. This decreases quality due to no external pressure and no competitors ready to capitalize on the imperfections of your product or service. Our deputy leader of TIMI will go into further detail on this topic later on. Secondly, I'd like to move on to my own points. Innovation is born from risk, stupidity, and madness. Yes, I am saying that. Consider history. The Wright brothers, mocked and dismissed as fools, built a machine that allowed humanity to soar in the skies. Nikola Tesla was called insane for his wild visions of wireless energy and electricity. However, he shaped the modern world. Elon Musk was ridiculed for reusable rockets, electric cars, and Mars colonization. Now we can see where he is now. These feats were not the result of collective approval. They were born from individuals rising alone, against ridicule, against limits, against the world itself. If humanity were forced to rise together, Musk would have been denied funding. The Wright brothers would have been stopped before their first flight. Independent risk, not collective consensus, drives real progress. This illustrates that collective coordination is a coffin for ambition. History shows us the deadly consequences of total unity. Mao Zedong's great leap forward tried to force millions to rise together. The result, famine, inefficiency, and millions of deaths. Centralized coordination suffocates innovation. When everyone is forcefully tied together, creativity dies before it can even spark. True breakthroughs, flight, electricity, space travel, require freedom to fail, freedom to experiment, freedom to defy. Rising together is not progress. It is changing ourselves against freedom and innovation. Rising together may sound morally comforting, but it creates a world of cautious, sanitized, and unremarkable accomplishments. Greatness thrives on mess, rebellion, and chaos. Furthermore, our Deputy Leader of Opposition, Timmy, will elaborate on how competition fuels progress, and our Opposition Whip will support our point using the theory of evolution and offer rebuttals to the government side. Finally, the motion romanticizes togetherness. We reject that fantasy. True progress is messy, dangerous, selfish, and chaotic. Innovation is a spark where the world is dark, not when everyone holds hands in a large, stagnant circle. Humanity's achievement is not rising together. It is the ruthless brilliance of those who defy the herd, risk everything, and carve new paths while the masses hesitate. Pressure doesn't forge diamond by holding hands. It forges them in isolation, under fire, and in defiance. We are not in a fairy tale, so stop acting like it. We therefore strongly urge you to reject the motion. Thank you, and I yield the floor to the Deputy Prime Minister.
I would like to thank the first speaker of the side opposition for their fine speech, and now 1 minute interval. Okay, ready? All right. I would like to welcome the second speaker of the side government, the Deputy Prime Minister, to further their case. Here, here.
Imagine a world where countries. Can you hear me?
Okay, we'll reset. Okay, can you try speaking it again?
Hello?
No, okay, please. Is it the button? Switch it on? Is it on?
Hello?
Okay, so we will restart the time, okay? So, okay, Miu, your time starts now.
Imagine a world where countries collaborated, sharing resources and reducing inequality drastically. Honorable adjudicators, fellow teammates, formidable opponents, and respected audience, this world is where humanity's greatest achievement will appear. And I, Tantira Pasuri, as the second speaker of the proposition, am here to prove that today. Firstly, I would like to begin with my rebuttals. The opposition said that the International Space Station is not an example of rising together, as it is powerful countries working together. But we clearly stated, while defining the motion, which has not been challenged, that rising together is a collaboration between two or more countries, which the International Space Station falls in. The opposition also used Mao Zedong's empire as an example, but as I said before, the motion says two countries working together, not one empire with people inside working together. Now I would like to move on to my main points. My first point is that rising together reduces inequality.
POI.
Yes?
Firstly, yes, we have challenged the motion. And secondly, that was an example. Please answer both of them if that's allowed.
Could you repeat that?
Firstly, yes, we have challenged the motion. And secondly, we are using an example. Is it allowed to ask like 2 in 1? Please answer 2 in 1.
Okay, well, that example was not relevant to what we define as the motion. And also, well, you did not state that that was a definitional challenge. You just stated that that was a redefinition on your side. Okay, continuing with my point. My first point is that rising together reduces inequality, while rising apart amplifies it. When countries don't collaborate, it creates a situation where some nations rise and some fall because resources aren't shared equally. This means rich countries become more successful, while the poor are basically left in the dust with less resources because resources are not shared equally, causing resource conflicts such as wars for water, food, and energy. For example,
POI.
yes,
Every country is different. If we work together, how would this change anything? If every country is different and there's no solution fit all.
like, what's an example of that problem?
Say, for example, not every country. My time has already ran out from a POI.
Okay. So, yes, but every country may have their own problems and traditions, but sometimes there are global problems and every country can work together to contribute to solving those global problems. Continuing with my point, Iraq, a developing country rich in oil, was invaded by the United States, one of the world's wealthiest nations, in 2003. The war destabilized Iraq, worsened poverty, and deepened resentment against Western dominance. And this shows that countries rising apart creates this inequality where rich countries get richer and poor countries get poorer. Rising apart causes political instability and a loss of trust in the government. It creates a situation where one nation's gain results in another nation's loss as resources are not equally distributed, creating more inequality. Rising together creates a situation where everybody gains because resources are equally distributed to everybody, creating more equality. My second point is that individual brilliance is useless without global collaboration. And this is an expansion on my first speaker's point about addressing how global challenges require combined action. One person or nation's revolutionary idea cannot be spread to the world without rising together, because a genius could create a vaccine, but without global collaboration in the form of supply chains to different nations, the vaccine would be useless because it can't reach anybody. One nation can create technology that solves climate change, but if other nations don't adopt it, global warming still remains a significant problem. And the opposition might talk about how competition creates innovation, but the way that innovation is spread is through rising together, not apart. Rising apart creates minor benefits that only help a few specific parts of humanity, but rising together creates benefits for all of humanity because all the benefits are spread to everybody through global collaboration. Finally, my third point is that behind every individual achievement, there is collective action. Behind every individual achievement, there is a system created by collective action behind it. For example, Albert Einstein, known by many as the smartest man in history, relied on schools and universities for education. Schools are a part of a global system that has been adopted worldwide, and this is an example of global collaboration and rising together. Without rising together, individual geniuses like Einstein would not have reached their full potential. In conclusion, we, as the proposition, have clearly proven why humanity's greatest achievements will be to rise together and not rise apart, and why it is undeniable that we should be granted the win in this debate. Thank you.
I would like to thank the second speaker of the side government for their fine speech. And now, 1 minute interval. And now I would like to welcome the second speaker of the side opposition, the deputy leader of opposition, to further their case. Hear, hear.
Three, two, one. Progress is fueled by the need to stay relevant or competition. Good evening, Your Honor. I'm Timmy Tanarat Chiamanisikun, as Deputy Opposition Leader on the motion. This House believes that humanity's greatest achievement will be to rise together, not to rise apart. Firstly, rebuttals for the government, then my own points, and a decisive conclusion. Government, now onto the government's points. They talked about how global challenges require combined action, and for example, climate change. However, I would argue that often in climate change, the top are responsible for the most emissions due to their carbon-intensive lifestyles. Often these are located in Europe or North America. Therefore, does it really require a global effort, or can countries specifically reduce since most of the global carbon emissions come from a specific area, would it be better to target that specific area than have it hindering the entire world's progress? Second, they talked about how rising together is collaboration of two or more countries. My question for you is that I disagree with this definition. Rising together means that every single country in this world is working towards a better future, as stated by our opposition leader. Third, they talked about how when countries don't collaborate, it creates inequality. But what will rising together do? For example, the UN has already delivered trillions of dollars in aid into Africa, and yet it has failed to make a scratch. Therefore, will rising together really solve inequality? And third, they talked about how rising together, the advantages are immense. But the problem is, your plan relies on everybody working together. And is that going to 100% happen? Because ego, conflict of interest exists, and historical problems are rooted. To expect everyone to work together and follow the plan is dangerous, as it only takes one brick for the entire building to come falling down. It only takes one country not researching in climate change and doing their job for there to be a huge missing hole within their system. Now, onto my points. My point is that competition fuels progress. Without competition, progress is unlikely. To erase any confusion beforehand, competition is a clear example of not working together.
POI?
Yet- yes?
Earlier in your speech, you mentioned how the UN has delivered money to Africa and how it hasn't helped. However, how is Rising Apart any better at solving issues like this? Could you please give an example? If anything, rising together is more likely to solve such problems. What is your response?
Rising apart. My main question for you is that rising apart does have many advantages. Instead of having to work together as a global community on Africa, why don't we let the African countries handle themselves? Why don't we let the African countries handle themselves? Now, continuing with my points. Yet it's necessary. In competition, business pursues their own objectives, not global ones. Competition is purposeful and strategic, but we're not arguing for anarchy. We're arguing that globally working under one company is ineffective and separation is still key. Humans compete due to evolution. Limited resources and mates have forced it. This has led to a natural instincts to compete. When instincts is paired with business where competition is essential, it results in innovation and better products, especially in product development, where countries must innovate to gain an edge, reduce cost, increase quality, and increase efficiency to make affordable products. These pressures spark novel solutions, enabling us to explore new fields and make breakthroughs. These optimizations are necessary to retain relevancy and avoid being outcompeted. A world without competition is stagnant.
POI.
Yes?
It is true that humans are naturally competitive, but this means that this competition can easily turn into conflicts and wars, and that is not a justifiable trade-off.
However, competition can often drive success. Now let me continue with my speech. A world without competition is stagnant, ruled by monopolies and cartels. Without rivals, why should we innovate? Why improve our product when we are the only options? Being apart keeps players in check. Take the fuel bus cartel, a light bulb cartel that limited light bulb spans to 1,000 hours, even through the 1920s, where light bulbs could last 2,500. It halted innovation for decades, created by dominant companies. It shows how a plethora of companies strengthens our economy and how unity can be nefarious. In capitalism, the competition is the engine. Without it, there is no reason to innovate or push forwards. Nearly 75% of research and development exists to outcompete rivals. Without it, it disappears alongside innovation. As governments are often the spark, e.g. the US's ARPANET to the internet. However, they cannot build the entire frame. That's the job of private companies. But without competition, why should the product be improved? Look at COVID-19. Discovered in December 2019, it halted progress globally. But by January 2020, private pharmaceutical companies were competing in a race to develop the vaccine. The first vaccines were developed by December 2020. A vaccine normally takes 5 to 10 years, but this one took 12 months. That urgency, driven in part by competition, sparked unmatched innovation and speed. In conclusion, competition drives innovation and improvement. It lets us rise and progress. This diversity is key to innovation and is an important novel spearhead. Without competition is a necessity. Thank you for listening.
I would like to thank the second speaker from the opposition, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, for their fine speech. And now, 1 minute interval. I would like to now welcome the third speaker from the side government, the government whip, to summarize their case. Hear, hear.
Don't start yet. I'm just going to test. Testing. Okay. It works. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Honorable judges, worthy opponents, and respected audience members, and also along with fellow teammates. It can be seen today that the opposition has clearly made many false statements throughout today's debate. Because of that, along with my role as the government whip, I'll be starting my speech off with some rebuttals. Starting with some rebuttal for the leader of opposition, who has stated that innovation is born from risk and madness. This is an attempt at accusing Rising Together of groupthink, where people's ideas are denied and unfunded as a result. This doesn't need to happen, and it isn't what happens when we rise together, as we have defined rising together as a unity of equality, meaning that everyone is given equal opportunity to express and test their ideas. Someone like the Wright brothers would be accepted in our side of the motion, especially when the world pools its resources, meaning that it can innovate more ideas while not having to expend that much on it. If it's good, then it succeeds and the world gets to use that idea. Nobody will be shunned. Even if they were shunned, that I will cover that in an integrated rebuttal later on as a clash. Furthermore, risk and madness have nothing to do about this
POI.
motion. Sure.
So how will you explain the evidence we have given, such as Elon Musk and communism?
Can you please rephrase your POI?
So how will you combat against the evidence we have provided, such as Elon Musk and communism?
I don't see how that evidence really relates to this case. While Elon Musk and communism are definitely ideas which clash, that is the world while rising apart. And as you can see, it hasn't really helped. While if we rise together, those ideas can be sorted out, and therefore we can choose the best idea, which is what we're attempting to do while rising together. Moving on to some rebuttal for the deputy leader of opposition, who said that most climate change comes from a few specific areas, so why not target those? To disprove this, we will target those specific areas, but more than one country working to solve these specific areas is rising together by our definition. Even by their definition, every country can collaborate to work on these areas, as even though they come from specific areas, they affect the entire world, and therefore, if we solve those, that would be rising together as a result. They also stated as a main point that competition leads to success, and most innovation is made to outdo rivals. While I agree to that, who is to say that that is rising apart? Competition can still be held while rising together. That doesn't disqualify it from being an act of rising together. Let's say there are two scientists from Thailand, and they are working in separate teams to accomplish a certain scientific task. Obviously, they're still going to be competing, but that's individual competition. That's not disqualifying it from rising together. They're still working towards the same international effort, goal, or force, which is still rising together. Individual competition can still be used to fuel individuals. It can still motivate people. But it's
POI.
still, sure.
My question for you is that if we're talking about the intention here, for example, is the intention to solve climate change really to help our world? Or is the problem, the root of it, that we want our country to survive? And doesn't this mean that the intention that we want our country to survive rather than this? My question for you is that our intentions focus on survival more than the success of the global community? And
POI
how-
over.
To answer that POI, the intention is obviously assuming that humans are good. I'm really diving into that. Human intention is so that the world can survive, not just success. Obviously, success will come with it, but the main reason is when the world rises together to combat something that threatens the entire world. For example, COVID-19. We can do the same with climate change, and it's not to succeed or anything. While that may be partial, the actual intention is obviously to save the world. Moving on to some points of clash, starting with the question of if competition falls under the definition of rising together. The opposition has made various points on how arguments and being apart actually support innovation. However, as a member of proposition, I'm appalled at this attempt. In no way is this contradictory or challenging to our definitions, which clearly specified that competition within this definition of rising apart is specifically two opposing forces trying to compete and outdo each other. However, if it's separate, two separate countries who are rising together, that's not rising apart. Even if there is competition between individuals within those countries, they're still working towards the same international effort, which wins us this point of clash. Moving on, because obviously I'm running out of time. As you can see, the proposition's world is better at every turn. This is a result of us winning every clash in this debate, from competition versus collaboration to how the motion affects education, which basically means that geniuses are allowed to use global education as opposed to where you're rising apart, where they can only use their own nation's institutes. To conclude, proposition has proved that unified action will lead to far greater, potentially the greatest benefit of humanity, fulfilling our burden of proof and winning us this debate. Along with that, to further reinforce our win, we as proposition have reviewed the vast majority of their points. For these reasons, I sincerely believe that proposition should be granted the win in today's debate. And before I finish, even though I've definitely gone over time, for your information, the theme is where we rise, not where I rise. If we lose this debate, which is highly unlikely as I've demonstrated, the theme of the overall debate has been contradicted. And with that, I conclude my speech.
I would like to thank the third speaker of the side government for their fine speech. And now, yes, we put the mic back. 1 minute interval. And now I would like to welcome the third speaker from the side opposition, the opposition whip, to summarize their case. Hear, hear.
From the fire that lit our ancestors' caves to the rockets that carry us beyond Earth, every leap forward has begun with one person, one mind, daring to rise above the rest. Humanity's greatness lies in the courage to work together yet apart, to think differently, to compete, to create. If we all rise the same way, we risk mediocrity. But when individuals rise apart through innovation, diversity, and even rivalry, the whole of humanity advances. It is not unity that has driven our evolution, but ambition. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honored judges and formidable opposition. My name is Poe, and I'm representing Denler British School as the opposition whip. Firstly, I will begin with rebuttals. I will challenge the definition of to rise together. The motion says that it's humanity's greatest achievement will be to rise together. It's humanity, not just two or more countries. Once again, working all together will cause no competition because we're working all together on the same goal. And furthermore, rising together in our definition will decrease competition because it is most of not all humanity. This will in fact slow down our development. And about COVID-19, it's competition that made the development of vaccines much faster. So that example is not valid, as stated by the second speaker. And furthermore, the
POI.
government... Yes?
Didn't we already prove that diversity, competition, and the expertise of individuals can coexist within rising together by definition?
Well, this is why we're challenging the definition. Furthermore, the government paints a beautiful picture of humanity rising together, but history tells a very different story. Look at the greatest empires of the world has ever seen. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, the Mongol Empire. Each one tried to unite vast parts of the world together under one single rule, culture, or system. Yet, even at their peak, they controlled only a fraction of humanity. We hail them as some of the most powerful, yet the Roman Empire covered less than 20% of the known world. And despite all its unity, it collapsed under its own weight. Now I will summarize and support my team's points. The first speaker talked about how history has always rewarded the ambitious, the competitive, and the daring. Innovation doesn't come from safety or agreement. It comes from risk, from mistakes, and from people bold enough to go against the crowd. If humanity were forced to rise together, many great ideas were rejected or never even tried. Rising together sounds ideal, but it's unrealistic. Progress has always come from individuals and groups striving to outdo each other, not from everyone moving in the same direction.
POI.
Yes.
We stated that rising together doesn't mean only going towards one direction. It means accepting every direction.
Okay. The fourth speaker will cover that. The space race between the US and Soviet Union wasn't peaceful unity. It was fierce competition. Yet, that rivalry put humans on the moon and sparked decades of technological progress, despite older technology. And the second speaker then stated that competition is what truly fuels progress. When people or nations compete, they're not working together. They're chasing their own goals. That drive pushes innovation forward. In a world that worked as one single community, progress would slow down because without rivals, there's no reason to improve. Companies only innovate because they have to stay ahead. Studies show that around 75% of development happens because of competition, not cooperation. Even during COVID-19, vaccines were created in just 1 year. Not because the world rose together perfectly, but because countries and companies raced to be first. Without competition, humanity would stagnate. And to support this, for 95% of human history, people lived in small competing tribes, about 50 to 150 members. These tribes didn't survive through unity with everyone. They survived by protecting their own and outperforming others. That competition forced humans to adapt, invent tools, and become smarter. Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection proves that evolution depends on variation and competition, not sameness. Even our ability to cooperate evolves because of competition. A study in Science in 2007 by Choi and Bowles found that humans learn teamwork within groups to win against rival groups. In short, unity itself was born from rivalry. Forcing humans to rise as one would mean denying the very traits that make humans human. In conclusion, true greatness doesn't come from sameness, it comes from difference. Rising apart is not division, it is diversity, discovery, and the essence of progress itself. Humanity's greatest achievement will not be uselessly pursuing the impossible task of complete unity, but it's to nurture and use the essence of progress we have been utilizing for the entirety of our existence. Thank you.
I would like to thank the third speaker of the side opposition for their fine speech. And now, 1 minute interval. And now I would like to welcome the reply speaker of the side opposition, the opposition reply, to give their closing statements. Here.
Well, why would you bother competing in this competition when you believe you should work together, right? Good afternoon, honorable judges, esteemed opponents, fellow audience, and my awesome teammates. I am Wish, representing the reply of opposition, and today I will show why the motion, humanity's greatest achievement is to rise together, is not only naive, but fundamentally wrong. As a reply speaker, my role is to summarize, reinforce, and expose why our opponents' arguments crumble under scrutiny. Let's break this down. Firstly, I'd like to summarize our stance. We oppose the motion. Humanity's greatest achievements come from risk, chaos, and independence, not forced unity. As our deputy leader of opposition showed, competition fuels progress. The consumer welfare theory explains that when companies compete, they lower prices, improve quality, and innovate. The government's idea of rising together would kill this competitive drive. Our whip also links evolution to competition, proving that progress thrives on rivalry, not unity. Next, I'd like to move on to the government's stance and how our evidence and rebuttals have weakened or even disproved their points. The Prime Minister stated the initial definition of together is two or more countries collaborating. However, me, the leader of opposition, responded by challenging the definition and arguing that every country has to be involved due to the wording of the motion in this case. The Deputy Prime Minister, however, kept pushing onto the initial definition without challenging the previous definition that was proposed by me, the leader of opposition. However, our Deputy Leader of Opposition luckily caught on and rebutted their use of the definition, was rebutting their utopian fairy tale story that government keeps using. Sounds nice on paper, but in Government sounds nice on paper, but in reality, it is a recipe for mediocrity and stagnation. Diamonds are forged under pressure, not in synchronized hand-holding. Greatness is cold, lonely, ruthless, and individualistic. Rising together is a myth. Rising apart, fueled by independence and audacity, is reality. We reject the motion because humanity's finest achievements were carved by those who risked it all, defied the herd, and dared to rise alone. True greatness is messy, chaotic, and independent. The government has constantly pushed old definitions that already have been challenged and stayed in their fairy tale. For these reasons, the opposition should win this debate. Thank you for listening, and I yield the reply to the government.
I would like to thank the opposition reply speaker for their fine speech. And now 1 minute interval. I would like to now welcome the reply speaker of the side government, the government reply, to give their closing statements. Here, here.
Three, two, one. Ah, Team 7, we finally meet. You are a decent debate team, but you just make too many assertions on the point of how competition and ideas that stand out is just this amazing thing, right? And this is poorly backed by the fact that, as our definition defined it, so that competition within a nation by individuals such as the general public could still hold the benefit of competition, but still count as representing a country or nation. And once there are many nations, they are that has an inter-mechanism like this, working together still falls into our category of rising together by definition, as mentioned by my third speaker. And there's not really a definitional challenge in this field. And that is basically the main takeaway from one of the biggest points of clash in this debate about definition. They mentioned multiple times of how the benefits of innovation could be only achieved through competition and rising apart, but completely ignore our point made by the second speaker and the POI in the second speaker's speech of their side, that humanity's morality should be valued as well alongside with innovation to actually achieve and deliver humanity's greatest achievement even by the definition. Even if we abide by that definition, the clash of great minds pushing innovation versus relatively slow innovation by rising together is objectively outweighed by our argument that collaborative innovation stands for longer in the long term, while innovation is by rising apart only works in the short term. And we didn't really see a response to this. We said in all our speeches that no matter how good, how great an individual can be, humanity's greatest achievement by definition could be solved only if we address the issues that's stopping that, and we already proven how rising together is directly addressing these issues and could not be achieved with without humanity itself, which already proved by my first and second speaker. The opposition tried to claim that they issued a definitional challenge. However, our second speaker pointed out that they did not explicitly state what was being issuing in the challenge, making the definition unable to weigh as compared to our definition. Opposition later tried to challenge our definition. However, this is done by our third speaker, making it again not applicable to our debate. All our proposition points they find on their definition, which we have proven not applicable, but we have proven on why both sides of the definition, even by their side, we still win. If you look at this side, we see blue. If you look at this side, we see red. But where I'm standing right now is purple. And so that's a mix between the two. So that's basically rising together. That's basically the message. Thank you.
I would like to thank the reply speaker from the government side for their fine speech. And I would like to have a round of applause for both teams for their final debates. Well done. Please, both teams cross the floor and shake hands. Well done for the senior final. And that's it for all of the debates. Dinner is provided in the senior building. Please come back here at 7 p.m. sharp, where we will begin the award ceremony. We will have the results for both the speeches and the debates. We'll see you then. Thank you.